I think we're live, right? Michael?
Yeah, I think we're live.
Yep. Okay. I see a bunch of thumbs up. So yeah, we're live.
Yeah. So hello, everyone. And we're thrilled to welcome Adam Laurie, Chief Product Security Officer at ALPITRONIC, GMBH. And Adam is one of the UK's top ethical hackers, and he will be discussing the unique cybersecurity challenges we are facing in the realm of electrical vehicle supply chain equipment and the critical need for collaboration approaches to address them. So Adam, it's your stage.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm ethical attacker, hacker, whichever way you want to put it. I'll give you a brief intro. Hopefully I can change slides. So yeah, I'm pretty old school. I've been, or just old probably. I've been in this industry for over 30 years. Started in the 70s, late 70s as a database software developer and support engineer. And that actually gave me a very interesting perspective because right from the get-go, I was dealing with customers directly and understanding their problems, as well as having to figure out how to adapt our products in order to help them solve problems. So, I think I came into it, not every developer has that perspective that you get to see both sides of the problem. Normally you kind of sat in the back room making your product and hope it does what everyone wants and then get reports back. But dealing direct gave me a really good feeling that I understood what people wanted and I could help them. So that sort of led to solving a lot of other problems that were unrelated to the main business of the company, which was building databases. But back in those days, there was no standard. There was hardly any networking. There was no standard for moving data between different microcomputers. So we all had floppy disks, if you're old enough to remember those. And before the IBM PC came along, all those floppy disks had different formats. So part of my support problem was, how do I deliver our software to all these different platforms that have different disk formats? So I ended up running a kind of side hustle, which was the customers where I had solved the problem of how to deliver our package to them on a different platform from the one we were developing on. Also came to us and said, well, how did you manage to give us 3 different floppy disk formats for these 3 different platforms? Can you move some data between them for us? So I actually ended up starting a business that did that. I just moved data between different floppy disk systems. And that led to, again, a sort of strong understanding of, well, all the different floppy disk formats, but also the scale of that problem, how much stuff needed moving around. So long story short, that then, developed into quite a successful business. We did a lot of data transfer, and I was then exposed to different kinds of data for bigger and bigger customers. So I ended up doing systems integration work, which then led to noticing that a lot of these back-end systems and things that I was importing data into were not very secure. They were doing stuff because it worked, but they weren't necessarily doing stuff in a secure way. And particularly in the early days of networking, they just cared about making it happen and getting stuff talking to each other. Dug deeper and deeper into that, got really focused on security, started a secure hosting business, which ended up running out of nuclear bunkers because that was obviously secure because they're physically secure. Still got the electronic side of things, but basically, start in a secure location because, again, data centers were not very secure. I found I could walk into a data center and access other people's machines that happened to be in the rack next to the one I was working on. So a lot of stuff in the early days was pretty ropey, and it was great fun to be in security in those days. I was on the blue team because I was basically building and securing these facilities. But then, and in those days, the blue team was actually capable of keeping up with pretty much every reported vulnerability. So there would be, an internet feed saying there's this new vulnerability, and we would have time to build it out, test it against our infrastructure, and protect ourselves against everything that was known at the time. That rapidly increased to a point where you just couldn't possibly keep up with everything. And so I thought it would be even more fun if I jumped from the blue team and went to the red team and joined the attacking side. So that's what I did. I started hacking very ethically, of course, and training, got into open source and so on. Fast forward, .com crash, all our customers disappeared up their own hedge funds, and we went, everyone pretty much went bust. I don't know if you remember that. Started a new, smaller consultancy doing specifically hardware testing, which again in the early 2000s was a very kind of rare beast. Not a lot of people were doing it. Got involved in critical national infrastructure, smart meters, that kind of stuff. Then got headhunted by IBM to bring that capability into IBM. So they brought me in as associate partner, and I built out their hardware capability. So built 5 labs globally, and we did hardware testing. And then along came ALPITRONIC, who headhunted me out of IBM and asked me to apply the same sort of mindset, but to a single product. And a lot of people think that's kind of weird, going from working as a general hardware pen tester, looking at all kinds of different things and having lots of interesting problems, to focusing on just one product. But I actually see it as the sort of ultimate evolution of being able to bring all those skills to bear on a single product and really understand that product, and not just skim the surface on something and move on. So now I'm embedded in this company and in this product, and I'm really interested in making sure that it's secure from inside out. And so as Chief Product Security Officer, that is my role. I have to understand the threats from all angles and make sure that we secure it from all angles. So what specifically are we talking about, and why do we particularly need collaboration in the EVSE space? So as I mentioned, I've had a lot of experience in different fields of security, and I'm sure a lot of you are practitioners in the security world, and you're used to looking at a specific problem, like a network, and you know what the IP addresses are you have to deal with, or what the the potential targets are, what the scope of your issue is, or your test, or whatever. The difference here is that we're dealing with a much more complex environment where there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of regulation for some of those moving parts, particularly the critical national infrastructure parts. And so it's a much more difficult space to focus on and figure out what it is needs testing, what it is needs securing, who's in charge of securing it. So I found this really nice diagram online, and you probably will have seen it if you've looked into EVSE Security at all. You will have seen it all over the place. And there's a good reason for that. And when you see it, when I present it, you'll see why. It might give you a bit of a clue as to what the issue is. So this is from the excellent report produced by Sandia National Labs. Name of it is at the bottom. If you Google for that, you'll find it easily. And they've done a very detailed threat analysis of the EVSE charging infrastructure. And as you can see, we're kind of embedded right in the middle of this cluster of stuff. And securing all of that is what we're talking about. This is what needs to happen. Right now, there's not a whole lot of regulation regarding this overall structure, and particularly EVSEs, but it's coming. And a lot of the external components are already regulated. So when I look at this diagram and I'm thinking, well, how big is this problem? So yeah, let's play a little game and see how many security operators are involved in this structure. So if we start from the left, we have the TSOs, the transmission guys, and that's the bits that they're responsible for. We then move across to the DSO. So again, they share a bit here, but basically they have all this stuff they need to care about. The charger itself sits in a physical location. So you've got number 3, which is the facilities management for that location, the physical security. It might be in a location that's inherently secure, like a military base or an airport or a car park, which is secure because you need to pay to get in and out. It's locked up at night, whatever. Or it might be just an open charging area. But someone will be managing that location, and we'll have CCTV and all that kind of stuff. The CPO, obviously, the charge point operator, they are customers in a lot of cases, or a third-party contractor who's running the chargers for our customers, so the owners of the equipment. They have a bunch of stuff connecting to the chargers for management, for service and so on. Payment. So number 5 is the authentication system, whether that's for payment or internal charging for accounting purposes within, again, maybe you're an airport operator of an electric tow truck for airplanes, and then you can charge it on there. You'll have some kind of authentication system. The vehicle is not just one operator. I've given it 11. So pretty much all the things on this list, the vehicle itself, this is an ever expanding thing. And obviously we've just joined ASRG. You guys have been talking about this stuff for years. So you know better than I do. There's a whole bunch of threats to do with vehicles. So yeah, I've given it more than one. Telco. So a lot of this stuff is connected. So you've got internet, you've got cloud, you've got all kinds of stuff going on where a telco or an ISP is involved. So they're number 18. Not forgetting the driver, number 19, so the owner of the vehicle. Now, he could also be your adversary. He could be the attacker. He's got privileged access. He's got through all of these other things. He's at the charging station. He's paid to be in the car park, or he's a worker at the airport, or someone in the military base, whatever. He's sat in a vehicle connected through this plug, and basically no one's going to question him if he's sitting there for half an hour to an hour charging his vehicle. And yeah, we're working to speed that up. Charging their vehicle and typing away on a laptop because maybe they're just working in the car. No one's going to bat an eyelid, and that's quite an unusual position when you're doing physical attacks against things. You don't usually get to sit in a safe space and have full access. So I do see the driver as a definite potential source. And then finally, us, the manufacturer. So our equipment is sat in the middle of all of this, and obviously we are responsible for some of the security involved. We're responsible for all of the embedded software, implementing the standards correctly for all the communications and so on. So that's a big part of it. So what did we miss? We covered pretty much everything. this is a fast-moving environment. Things are changing. We're definitely going to see other things. I've probably, I've taken one diagram. There are probably other things, and I'm happy to hear suggestions what I've missed out. There will be new things in the future, new standards that are applied, new technologies that are connected, whatever. So, but as you can see, it's a big and complex environment. So what are the solutions and or challenges? From my perspective, every one of these solutions comes also with a challenge. I'm a big fan of collaborative work and collaborative testing. Some of you will probably already be working with us or talking to us about doing stuff. This is an open invitation for everyone in the industry or connected industries or people who have services that they can provide to us to get in touch. But yeah, things like end-to-end testing. I can't do an end-to-end test of all that stuff in the diagram because I don't own it. I don't control it. I don't manage it. Even our own chargers, once we sell them, we don't manage them anymore. We provide service and maintenance, and we can help the CPOs to manage them, but we don't run them. So even though that in situ, I can't do a full end-to-end test on without collaboration of the CPO. So very interested in doing that kind of stuff with anyone in the industry that can help. Again, just the points where two of those components meet, we need to get the two parts together and get them testing. Very interested in doing adversarial type scenarios where red team tests against the blue team. And we will be organizing hackathons in the future. So we're building out a dedicated test lab where we can bring a vehicle in. We will have chargers there. We will have shadow backends. So yeah, if you're a vehicle manufacturer and you want to do an end-to-end test, you can bring it along, drive it into our lab, and we'll work together on it. Very interested in threat intelligence, both and real-time stuff. So for SOCs, VSOCs, but I know a lot of you will run VSOCs either for your own products or on behalf of your customers. Interested in lessons you've learned there, techniques, tools, whatever. We're building a PSOC for the product. We're building a SOC for the SOC. I mean, we already have some, but we're extending those. Also very interested in machine readable data exchange. So how do we move data between these various environments? Incident response. How do you respond to an incident when you don't control all the components of that incident? Who even spotted it in the first place? So, it could be your physical operator on CCTV notices something suspicious happening at a charger or with a vehicle. There's some people doing something weird. There's a bunch of guys with, your classic hacker with his hoodie on, crouched over the machine or plugging in a toaster or whatever. So you need to know what's going on, but how do all of these people collaborate to provide visibility from all angles? And how do you do that without sharing PII or your own IP that you want to protect? So that is a serious challenge. How do we do that? And how do we work together to get real-time incident response? Tools and techniques, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a big fan of open source. I see some things in the environment. There's a lot of open source already used in the environment, particularly on vehicle emulation and stuff for testing. And there's a lot of new things coming along. Obviously, EVSE is getting interest where it hasn't had it before. So at conferences, there's talks coming out about threats and attacks against EVSEs. So that's producing some open source tooling for doing the attacks, for doing the mitigations, for doing the emulations, and so on. So I see that as being really useful. a few bug bounty programs. Some of you would have seen the fairly well publicized event in Tokyo in January, where a bunch of chargers were attacked, as well as not DC yet, but AC. I assume DC is coming. I see bug bounties as well. I have opinions about bug bounties, but they're definitely useful in some environments. Competitions, capture the flags and stuff. Those are always good. And speaking at conferences, so spreading the word, talking about what you've found and what your problems are, which is what I'm doing here. So yeah, I'm open to anything I've missed, any offers of collaboration or insight. Welcome, welcomely, would be well received. So I think that's pretty much my pitch. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Adam. Maybe I will start with a question from my side.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about different components, and we see how complicated in the platform, and a lot of hackers can go into different places there. So how you can adapt the traditional cybersecurity approach? Yeah, so to overcome all these challenges you covered during the first slide and partially covered in second, but kind of summarizing what you see as challenges here from like a traditional approach to go to all this charging infrastructure and looking at end to end.
Well, I mean, that's the $64 million question. I think the only solution I can see, the traditional approach of having a sort of closed environment where you work on your own problem, just doesn't apply here anymore. The challenge and the solution is how we collaborate to make this stuff work, and how we share the workload to identify, who is actually in charge of the component that can stop the attack or can learn more about the attack. So if I'm working closely with, say the scenario I mentioned, where the physical security operators notice something weird going on with a vehicle, if they can alert the vehicle manufacturer who has a VSOC and the CPO who has either through collaboration with us access to our PSOC, or they have their own PSOC, and they can look at that attack in progress from both angles. So they can see it from the vehicle and what it's doing to the charger, and they can see it from the charger, what it's receiving from the vehicle. And then if necessary, you can get other people involved, but you need some means of real-time collaboration between different organizations that have different priorities and different resources. So
thank you for the answer. So it's a really complicated part with a lot of players here. And we have interesting question also for how it's coming from vehicle to charging station, but now the question is how you protect them from the charging station to the grid.
Yeah, very good question. And actually that's part of what's in the Sandia National Labs report that I based this whole talk on. If you read that, that's something they're very interested in. If you manage to take over a large cluster of chargers and you can make them behave badly, then there's a lot of interesting effects you can have on the grid, and damage you could potentially cause to the grid. Yeah, that's again why we need to be able to work with TSOs and DSOs to actually protect the larger infrastructure that we're plugging into. I believe there are paths that you can take through that. There are organizations working on it. Idaho National Labs and Sandia are working together in the US with EVs at Scale, for example. There's a big conference coming up shortly where they will be talking about this stuff. So there's a lot of work in that that area, and we're interested in collaborating in that field as well. And we'll have to when megawatt chargers come out, that becomes part of CNI, and then we're automatically part of that problem.
So it's kind of a cloud infrastructure providers with regulatory providers, with governments.
Yeah, everyone is in the mix. Yeah. I see a question in the chat. The most upvoted question will win a Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi is also heavily implicated in this. That we see it a lot in the testing infrastructure, in the development. People use Pis a lot for emulating vehicles. So very useful tool to be giving away. So great prize.
And John is asking what the best support involvement. So you talked about last site, so you want everyone to work together, but can kind of summarize it. Yeah.
So where can we best get involved, support? I mean, well, obviously, John, as the founder of ASRG, you will know that you already run an excellent platform where everyone gets together, and conferences like this. To get involved with us directly, you can reach out to me. But yeah, I mean, get more involved, get more people in to join ASRG. We joined because we see that value, and we've immediately, ASRG have immediately gone about retweaking their intelligence feeds to provide EVSE specific content. So that's great. That already, has answered one of our questions: is how do we get intelligence that's specific to our industry? And we got that just by asking, by joining and saying, "Hey, can you provide this for us?" And they said, "Yep, sure can. Here you go." So.
And I think we have the last question here for zero day vulnerabilities. Somehow I cannot. Okay.
I mean, I'm a big believer in zero trust. We've done, since my early days at the bunker, when we were building out our systems there, back in the whenever it was, the 90s, I guess, early 2000s, we worked very much on not having an external firewall, and then it's what we call the sort of the castle approach, where you have a hard and crunchy outside and a soft and squidgy inside. So as soon as you manage to get through the external barrier, you can do whatever you like. So I'm a big believer that every end-to-end connection should be secure. Services should only run in trusted modes where each end verifies each other, and so on. So fixing all the protocols so we have end-to-end security is a big part of solving the problem. Not running unnecessary services, not allowing connections from untrusted sources, all that good stuff. So yeah, I think zero trust is a good starting point.
Thank you, Adam. So if you would like to continue discussion with Adam, we have a backstage. You can connect there. Adam will be there. Feel free to ask your questions and continue these discussions. Thank you again, Adam. It was a very interesting talk.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.